Right, and I mean, like I said in the previous video, I don't know where these black folk come from. Because, I mean, to get involved in stuff like that, just you've been blessed with a talent, whatever it may be. If you're a singer, a dancer, an actor, a writer, an artist, whatever it is, God bless you with the talent. The talent is going to generate revenue. You don't need to sell out to nobody. You just do your craft and you'll be blessed for it.
And
Right.
so another problem that they're having is what? Surveillance.
Oh, yes. I think everybody here in the States and all over the world realize this is a new society. It's a technologically advanced society. There's cameras everywhere. Everybody's toting a cell phone down to the parents, to the children. So it's easy for them to surveil you. You know, they've had people that was worked in the NSA that revealed some information, got in trouble for that, and no longer living in the country. But those type of things are happening. That's technology moving forward. That's the government needing to keep an eye on its citizens, and that's just the way it is. You're gonna have to find a way around that. That is not proper in any form of the sense. And they pretended that we had constitutional rights with this and that. But when it comes to the government, there's no such things. It's whatever they need that's expedient at that moment.
Yeah, so white folks are looking at China like, they get surveilled. And so remember now, all these hundreds of years, white folks been surveillancing black people with police, watchmen. Yes. So if you haven't seen some of our other videos, we go in and explain how the policing system, was a giant part of slavery. And so if you're constantly surveilled, so let's just take, for instance, what's going on with the folks in China. Right. They're constantly being surveilled. Who do they hang out with? Their phones are monitored. Who's in their contact list? Who's what time did they leave? Where did they go? They have to get scanned on their phone in order to go in and out different places. And so the credit system is now based and judged on their surveillance. So if you're hanging around a bunch of people who got low credit scores, or even if they're your family, your friends, they ding your credit score.
Well, for black folk, that don't even matter to us.
If you cross the street illegally, like you didn't cross on the crosswalk, they ding your credit score because they surveilling you.
Yeah, they have the highest concentration of cameras in the cities in the world.
Mm-hmm. So white folks is like, we ain't trying to do all that. No. So that's the reason why Trump is like trying to fight all this. He don't want the globalization. So globalization is when China's systems come over here. And so that means Americans. So we already surveilled a lot, but it'll become like China. And so that's the difference between the globalization and the nationalism. The nationals don't want that surveillance system, but they've been putting that on black people all these years.
Yeah, but they'll say, oh, we don't want the surveillance. We don't want this or that. They don't want something that they can't control or they're not running.
Yeah, they don't want to be placed under the system of slavery.
Exactly. So don't get it twisted and think they don't want it because they're protecting your interests. Mm-hmm. I'm almost for certain that's not the case. Like we say, that type of thing, China is just the beginning. There's a lot of countries that's battling against China with that type of thing, but they're adopting the same type of policies. Not quite as stringent, but the same technologies are going around all over the world. Mm-hmm. Satellites are going up constantly. You see Spacex is like putting rockets in space weekly. They just send them up there. Satellites being put up there constantly.
Yeah, so you got to start thinking to yourself, why the heck, while we going through all this mess, are they sitting up there sending stuff to space? They trying to get up out of here and send us more surveillance satellites to surveil you.
Well, it's just a lot to take in. There's so much going on. It would be a lot easier to handle if we were stable in terms of the leadership here in the country. If people could get up in the morning and know all they got to do is go to work, and the government is going to be at least pretend like it's functioning properly. It can't even do that. So every day you get up, the news is filled with some kind of drama, some kind of nonsense.
And a lot of it's trying to distract you from what's going on. So when you see these celebrities, now we just did a video on it.
especially what the African American celebrities.
Right. It just so in Hollywood, if you didn't know, and in politics, if you didn't know, a lot of these people, got contracts with doing sketchy stuff and sketchy people and occults and contracts and stuff with Freemasons and stuff, and they participate in a lot of different rituals and stuff that go against God.
Right, and I mean, like I said in the previous video, I don't know where these black folk come from, cause I mean to get involved in stuff like that, just you've been blessed with a talent, whatever it may be. If you're a singer, a dancer, an actor, a writer, an artist, whatever it is, God bless you with the talent. The talent is gonna generate revenue. You don't need to sell out to nobody. You just do your craft, and you'll be blessed for it.
So the idea with it, in order to become a celebrity means to celebrate, which actually that goes against God, because your talent, you're supposed to use that to celebrate God, not to celebrate yourself. Mm-hmm. So a celebrity is an idol. So what do you do with an idol? You worship it, you look at it, and it takes you and distracts you from what you're supposed to be looking at.
Well, they're putting them on TV constantly.
Well,
they got them in your face constantly. They're trying to show like they have wealth beyond.
When serious stuff is going on, you get Kanye up there acting crazy. So distracting you.
It's so much drama to distract the average person from taking care of their business, which is going to impact the majority of the population's lives. So it's a lot to take in at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much going on. The story is never ending.
But it's one that we are up for. We blessed. If you get in your word and you trust in the Lord, you understand the type things that's going on. Things in the past have went on similar to this. Most of these times are prophesied. This is the end time. If anybody with any kind of discernment would be able to realize that.
Yeah, but then you wonder why the preachers are not preaching to the people the different sides and stuff like that.
It's very simple. The system don't allow them to. You have to keep the sheep herding in one direction with one mindset and completely.
Everybody, come on, let's welcome Mr. Kanye West today.
Comes up and says something like, I am a God. Comes up and says something like, I am a God.
To the comment, you said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers.
Can you explain what you meant by that term then? Just explain, because it's really simple. You said you didn't want.
One comes up and says something like, I am a God.
You have to keep the sheep herding in one direction with one mindset and completely blind to what's going on around them. And they are part of the system. Most of them, I can't say all of them, but a lot of them are.
So even your big preachers, no, the reason why they don't tell you is their pocketbooks. We're just going to say that. But so
Well, they're being impacted right now because they can't have those services, and without those services, you can't generate tithes and offerings and create income for yourself.
And a
So,
lot of them are Freemasons themselves. So, Freemason, if you didn't know the origins of a Freemason, go back way back to King Solomon. And so, one of the things that King Solomon asked God for was wisdom. And so he was granted with wisdom, the wisdom of the stars, the wisdom of magic, the wisdom of, basically God's gave him wisdom of everything, of nature, of everything. And so while he married a whole bunch of other women, and they was all from different backgrounds, God told him not to do that. They started incorporating their religions and their beliefs and accessing the wisdom that God gave. So now you started coming up with things like the occult and Freemasons and all that stuff that use different forms of magic and symbols and different things like that. And so that's why Kanye West was going around. If you don't remember, where he was going around doing his church services and forming into this choir and stuff into the Eye of Horus, and which these are satanic symbols, if you didn't know.
but how quick we forget, and so he was gone for a little while, and now that things are getting hot and heavy, a lot of pressures coming down on the president. There's a lot of different issues popping up. Here comes another black celebrity to distract with an incoherent message about running for president. No real theme, no real policies, just to waste time and to distract the youth.
Right, because he's a celebrity.
Right.
He takes your focus off. And in the past, he's been using these satanic symbols. So, but you quickly have forgotten that.
Right. But my thing of it is, what are the solutions? What are some of the options for African Americans in this election? You have Donald Trump on one side and you have Joe Biden on the other. And neither candidate represents your interests. If they don't support reparations, Joe Biden is a part of a different type of system than Trump. It impacts African Americans just as negatively as the Republican Party.
So the thing with the Democratic Party is they're representing globalism, and then that's going to turn white Republicans into the slaves, the same ones that they imprisoned over here.
Their constituents
with slavery and all the different forms of labor and treating them bad. Just different. That's what they're going to get imposed upon. So unless you're part of the elite, which a lot of the Democratic Party represents the elitism.
Well, we facing some very unique challenges, and just like we've been saying, with the Democratic Party traditionally has been the party of the African Americans as of late.
Right, because we didn't know.
But they have various groups and various factions coming out of it, and black people are getting fractured and unfocused and following different things. We've been, I guess it's always been like that in history. People slowly merged into our group and caused confusion. And right now, we need a unified focus. And you have different groups, you have different issues, you have Black Lives Matter, you have the LGBT community, you have a lot of different things.
Yeah, there for black reparations, that we have to separate ourselves and our theme, our streamline, for simply just American descendants of slavery need reparations, not American Indians,
right? Not subgroups,
not LGBT community, not Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives is not American descendants of slaves. That means all of the immigrants that have came since. So no, we're not talking about that.
The message and the overall impact of the organization has been diluted now and become
so when you dilute something, you make it weaker.
Right, and so that's our problem, and that's always been the attack in the approach of people who wanted to keep us subservient and in a place where we couldn't. Prosper. but it continues to be effective because you take individuals that look like us, talk like us, and move like us, but they are being influenced by outside forces that are not of the same people. So that's why I said we have to get focused.
Like sheep.
That's why I said we have to get focused.
Like
it has,
sheep.
Right. It has nothing to do with hate or anything like this. This has to do with focus and prospering and surviving in the future. As you can see, things are getting dire and hectic. But most of us don't see it because you worried about celebrities. You worried about Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, Kanye West, but you're not worried about the different laws that's being implemented.
Yeah, your own life is at stake.
Right.
But it's not for us to preach to you. We're just telling you this. So you got to start thinking of things that you can do. One thing you could do is start praising and asking God to come into your life.
That is where you have to start.
Yes, because in the end, all the military has all these weapons. All these different fractions have control over you, and so only thing that can come and save you, he tells you in the Bible, you have to call out for him.
Yes, and so we're trying to avoid the pain that is to come. And we want people to be prepared, us as a people. The country, we've been here, we've tried to support the country, we've tried to do everything to be a part of this country, but it refuses to let us in that role. And so we're on the outside, so we have to handle things accordingly. So if you got two candidates, you have to find one. You don't belong to either party. You belong to the one who can best suit the interests and move your people forward as a group, not an individual. We ain't looking for snakes to come in and tout the group while enriching themselves and leaving the group behind. That's all we've seen in the past. And you still got those types out there now. So we recognize them snakes when we see them. So
most of the black leaders that you see on television are Freemasons. They've made binding contracts and deals with people that don't represent the Lord and don't represent you. They're just there to oversee you, an overseer. Just like Django Unchained. You remember that movie when they had the black overseers and stuff? Like
Samuel.
Yeah, so that's basically what they are. They get paid to tell you to calm down.
Right, and so we moved past that, and so it's incumbent upon everybody to get focused. Put that stuff aside, because if the economy continues to tank, when stuff gets tight, stuff gets cut. And people who are deemed insignificant is the ones who brunt most of those cuts. And so you've known in history that has been the role that the African Americans has played. So we need to make sure our interests are definitely put forward, not to be so concerned with all these other distractions, all these manufactured issues that's popping up.
And
Stay focused.
And so you have to understand, you got this virus out here.
Oh boy.
People who have shown in the past that they don't give two chops about you, why would they be concerned with trying to save you? Yeah. If you got somebody out there who's always touted population control and he's invented some vaccine
Yeah.
And then it's possible that
Eugenics.
it can have, yeah, he's related to the family that's part of the eugenics program. So,
Yeah, it's almost offensive
almost.
how blatant in your face they
And you
try
have
to.
you just sitting there like, oh, it's all right. There's no uprising. There's nothing.
And then
You're just going for it.
Your so-called academics, your so-called religious leaders, your so-called political figures.
Yeah, where are they at? They haven't said squat. That lets you know
they're part of it. So, like I say, there's people who've always pretended to be part of the group, but they was only enriching themselves. So it's time to wake up now and stop being so gullible and naive and always feel like you need to be I guess patted on the back and feel like you one of the crew, but you're not.
Then Joe Biden said you're beyond the scope
Yeah.
of saving.
Yeah.
And they're part of the ones that want you to get this vaccine and wearing masks and all this different stuff and touting this virus and so on and so forth. You're beyond the scope of saving.
Beyond the pale. He said the only thing he concerned with is saving his daughter, his wife, his family members. Because even though we've created them by oppressing, by stealing, by killing and
kidnapping you over here, raping you.
It's not his concern that has caused you to lash out and to be violent or to be able to be in survival mode and steal and things like that. That's not his concern. His concern is to get you locked up.
Right, and so if they put something in that vaccine, which we've showed that the video about the nanotechnology, which is tiny microscopic computers. What do you think if they push a button, everybody with a specific DNA is going down?
Yes. And so
they show this stuff on the movies and stuff all the time.
Yeah, so the movies definitely gives you a window into what's going on. All that stuff you see in the movies, a civilian just couldn't come out of thin air and come up with this stuff. A lot of those tactics that they use, a lot of the technology that's in those movies, comes from somewhere. And that stuff is going to be implemented.